Hello and welcome to the dashboard course by Trump Excel. I'm Sumit Bansal, and in this video I will show you how to create a sales pipeline management dashboard in Excel. Let me first show you how it looks like. Here I have a fully functional sales pipeline management dashboard. Before I take you through the dashboard, the most important thing to note here is that this dashboard is as of 31st March 2015, which means that when the data was compiled, it was compiled on this date, and there are many deals that have either been won or lost before this date, and all the remaining deals are in various stages of pipeline which would either close or would be lost or would be won by this company in later dates. So what I mean by sales pipeline stages, here I have 5 stages, which is identified, validated, proposal, qualified, and won. Now these are typical sales stages. These can change based on the company and how the processes work, but more or less it would look like this. Now identified stage is where you have identified a client as a good prospect. Validated stage is where you validate it as a potential deal. So you think that there is real potential of closing that deal or getting business from the client. Proposal is the stage where you send your proposal to the client. Qualified stage is where you qualify the deal as a prospect deal that could be one, or you are qualified as a vendor by the client. So maybe there is a tender and the client calls for proposals, and yours is one of the say top 3 or top 4 proposal that get accepted. And then there is win, where you win that client. There is also another stage which is lost, which is at the same time where either you win a deal or you lose a deal, but I would show only these 5 because all the deals that are not won are lost. So in this dashboard I have these interactive controls at the top. You can select the region. So I have these countries. You can either select all countries, so you would have the data for all countries here, or you could select these regions. I also have this option to either get the dashboard values for deal value. So if I select this, you can see that these deal value changes. So it becomes 2469 million, or I can get it by deal count. So for example, if I click on this, you can see that it is one deal value in dollar million by country. So these are all the countries, and these are the values that the country has won in this data. And then if I select deal count, then it would change. You can also select a country here. So for example, here if I select say Australia, then this chart, this pie chart, would reflect all the stages of the deals in Australia. So I have 42 deals in identified, 28 in validated, and so on and so forth, and there have been 9 wins, and in total there are 110 deals in Australia. Similarly, on this chart there are 9 wins in Australia as shown here, and these are the other countries. I also have the win rate, which means that out of all the deals, 64.3% deals were won by this company. So for example, here if I select another country, it would give me 8 here, and the win rate is 72.7%, which means that in total there were 11 deals, out of which 8 deals were won by France, because the win rate is 72.7%. Now I also have these next 10 opportunities based on the closing date. So here you would see that, as I mentioned, this is as of 31st March 2015. So after that date, these are the dates where I have deals that could be closed. So I have these customer names, I have the country. Because I've selected France, it is only showing me France deals, but if I select all countries, it would show me deals from all countries. I have their stage, I have the deal value, and then it'll show me the top 10 opportunities. You can handpick the opportunities from here. So for example, if you want to only pick up qualified opportunities because they are very advanced stage in the pipeline, then you can pick up this deal, and similarly you can change the country and pick up other deals. I have the top 10 sales rep. I have their name and their win count, and again, if you change the country, this list would change. In some countries you may not have 10 sales reps, so it will show you the data whatever is available for these names and win count. Here is an interesting chart, and what it does is, here it gives you the win count by deal size. So there are deals which are less than 250,000, there are deals from 250 to 500,000, 500 to 1 million, 1 to 3 million, and 3 to 5 million. Now this chart would update based on these values. So here if I select all countries, it would show me these values because these are the deal sizes and these are the win count. But if you select these check boxes here, so for example if I uncheck all these, you would see that this chart shows nothing. But you can select one of these check boxes and it will show you the channel that was used to make that sale. So for example, if I click on this and there is only one deal which was there is one win count by this deal size which is less than 250k, I can see that it was done by partners. If I deselect this and I select this, I know there are two wins in this range which is 250,000 to 500,000, and it was done by partners and website. And similarly I can see it for all. I can select and deselect based on whatever is my interest area, and I can analyze the win count by sales channel as well. So this is how this entire dashboard works. Again, the most important thing to note here is that it is as of 31st March 2015. If say you progress to next quarter and then you want to create it for 30th June 2015, you need not change the dashboard. All you need to do is change the data in the backend, plug and play, and this dashboard would start working. So now let me show you how I have created this dashboard from scratch. Here I have the sales pipeline data as of 31st March 2015. So I have the reporting date, and if I show you all the records, I have 1000 records with the final data as 31st March 2015. Now there I have deal owners, customer name, the country where the deal company is there, the sales stage as of 31st March 2015, the deal size, the expected deal size, and then there is a probability to each deal. Now I'll not be using this probability factor, but if you look at a lot of sales pipeline data, you would have this value where they say that the deal size is say $2910 million, but the probability of closing this deal is 65%. So instead of taking the total deal size value, they often take weighted forecast deal value. Now you can take this value and replace it with what I have in my dashboard, and it would work just fine. I have the sales channel where I have telesales, face-to-face, partners, and website. Then I have the close date or expected close date. So these could be dates. If it is a win or a loss, then it would be before or on 31st March 2015. But if it is not a win or a close, then it would be after 31st March 2015. So you would see that this deal, the first deal is in identified stage and the expected close date is 7 April. So there are deals which go up to June, and there could be deals that go up to maybe a year long if they are really large deals. And then here I also have the next steps, which a sales rep usually keep a tab on what needs to be done or what are the next steps when they last spoke to the client. Now I also have the calculation tab here. I have everything ready, as in the placeholders are ready, and what I'll do is I would fill in the data, show you how to create those charts, show you how to create those formulas, and create the dashboard. So here I would have all these placeholders. So here I already have the placeholders. You would see that in the previous dashboards that I have showed you, I always keep the interactive controls together. In this case, I would keep the interactive controls here in the shaded area, and then I have all these placeholders that I would use to create the dashboard. So let me create a new tab here and I would call it dashboard. Let me go to view and remove the grid lines. And you would notice that in my way of designing dashboards, I usually have this bar at the top. So I would have a bar and I would keep my interactive controls together even in the dashboard. Now I do it for the ease of using it, and this is probably a well accepted design technique, but there is no reason to do it. If you want, you can have a different design format for your dashboards, and as I create more dashboards I would also show you different designs to do it. So in this case, let me quickly change the fill color to maybe say gray, and maybe the line color to dark gray, and I would change the width of this line. So this could be a place where I keep my interactive controls. Here I would go to the developer tab. If you do not have the developer tab, simply right click on any of these ribbon tabs, go to customize the ribbon, and here you would have the developer option, which would be unchecked. Simply check this, click OK, and you would have the developer tab in your ribbon. Go to developer tab in insert, and here I would insert a combo box. And you would remember that I had a combo box where there was a drop down for countries. So I would use this combo box and I would simply put it here. Now if you go to the calculation tab, you would see that I already have this list. If you do not have the list, no need to worry, simply go here, copy this entire column, and what I usually do is I go to area where there is no data and I would simply paste it, and then I would use the keyboard shortcut Alt AM. Now this is to remove duplicates. If you want to go through the tabs, you can go to data, and here you have remove duplicates, and when I click on it, it would show you this dialog box. I simply have the column N selected. My data does not have headers, so I do not have this checked, and when I click OK, it would give me the list of these countries. And what I've done here is I've copied this list and I've also added another option, which is all countries, because I also want to show them an option where they can have the dashboard display the data for all the countries. So this is what you can do. Let me clear this, and I already have this here. These countries are in alphabetical order. They've been sorted in that order. Now I would go here, right click, go to format control, and input range would be these cells, and now they are 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. These are 11 in number, so I would keep the drop down lines to 11, and my cell link here would be this cell, because this is the cell I have specified for country. And now when I click OK, you can see that here my drop down is working, and when I select Australia, it would give me 2 because Australia is the second country in the list. Now there is one more interactive control here that would control the entire dashboard, and that is the radio button. So let me add those radio buttons as well. So I would click here, I have this option. I would simply change the text to deal value in $million, and I would copy this and paste it again to have the deal count, and I would simply change this to deal count. Now I have these two here. I would again have to assign a cell to it. I would say keep this one checked, so whenever you open this dashboard, this is the option that would be checked, and then you can change it. And the cell link here would be this cell, which is chart radio button, and I click OK here, and that's it. If I now click on deal count, you would see that it changes to 2, and if I click on this one, then it becomes 1. So now both these controls are in place. Let's get started by creating our formula so that we can create those charts. Before I start creating the formulas, there are two things I need to do with the data. First thing is, as I always do, I would want to convert this data into an Excel table so that it becomes really easy for me to create those formulas. Instead of referring to the ranges, I can simply refer to these names here. So to convert this data set into an Excel table, I would press Ctrl T. And when I press Ctrl T, it opens the Create Table dialog box. Here, it would identify the range automatically, but it is always a good idea to cross check whether this range is right or not. And then there is this option to select if your table has headers. It's already pre-selected, and my table does have headers, so I would keep this selected. And now when I press OK, you can see that it has created a table. I have filters here at the top, and there are banded rows here, so it has converted this into a table. Now one more thing I would do here is I would name this table. So here I would go to design, and here I would name this to sales data, and I would click enter. So I would hit enter. Now my table has been made. There is one more thing that I need to do, and that thing is that I would need to add another column. Let me first do it. So I would add another column and see what happens. As soon as I add a column, my table extends to include that column within the Excel table. And I would name this column country check. And the reason I'm doing it is here I in this dashboard I have this option to either select all countries or to select these countries. Now if I select all countries here, I would want that to configure in my formulas. For example, if I create the deal size formula, I would want it to give me the deal size for all countries if this is selected, but only for Australia if this is selected. Now I can create a huge formula, but instead of doing that, I have created a helper column, and I would check for the country in the helper column. So what I would do is I would use an OR formula, and my first condition here would be whether this value, and let me press F4 to lock this, whether this value is equal to 1. And what I do here is if I select all countries, then this would become 1 and my OR condition would always be true. So if you have selected all countries, that should become true in any case. And if this is not the case, then I would use an index formula and I would say this is the array. Let me press F4 to lock it, and this would become my row number. And let me press F4 again. What it does here is if I select Australia from the drop down, then this index formula would use this number from this array and give me Australia. So this value would simply return Australia. If I select Canada, then this value would simply return Canada. And I would check whether the given country here is the same as the one I have selected. And let me close the bracket and hit enter. And here it gives me true. Everything comes out to be true. The reason here being because I have selected all countries. But what if I select China here? Then this comes out to be true because the country here is China, and all these other countries would be false till here. And see, that is the case. All these other countries are false, but this one is true because this is again China. So all I've done is I've put in a condition that would give me true when I select all countries, and if I select a specific country, then it would give me true for that country only. Now let's get started and let me create these formulas. The first one is here deal size by stage for the given country. So I would use some product formula, and the first thing that I would check here is I would first use sales data. First thing I need to check is sales stage, and if this is equal to A6, which is identified, and let me press F4 thrice. Now this would give me an array of trues and false. Let me put this within curly brackets and create another condition here, and my another condition would be with multiplication sales data, and I would simply select country check because country check is already an array of trues and false based on the country. So in this case number 4 is China. This value would be true only for those sales deals which are in China. So this would give me a number, but I need deal size. So I would multiply this with sales data and I would multiply this with deal size, and I would close the brackets and hit enter, and it gives me the value of deal size in China. And I would simply drag this down to give me all these values. Now I need to calculate deal count as well. All I need to do is simply select this formula and leave the last part out of it because I don't want the deal size, I want the count. So I would simply press F2, get into edit mode, Control V and enter. And I need to close the bracket. This is something that I always miss out on. Now when I hit enter, this gives me the deal count and I can simply drag it. And you can test this thing. If I select all countries here and I go to calculation, it gives me 355 deals in identified stage. Let's go back and check in our data. So I would go here, I would go to sales stage and I would select identified, and this gives me 355. Fair enough, which means that my formula is working. Now what I need to do here is, this is the data that gives me deal size as well as deal count, but you would remember that I had a pie chart here, a donut chart rather, that would give me deal value if I select this and deal count if I select this. So what I would do here is I would simply check whether this value is 1 or 2. So I would do if this value and F4 to lock it is equal to 1, which means that it says deal size, then I would take this value, else I would take deal count. And now I hit enter and it gives me deal size because I have first one selected, which is for deal value. Now one more thing here is that I am not taking the lost case here, I'm only taking win, because if you remember the donut chart, or if you think of it as a funnel, I would have deals in identified, then some deals would fall through, but some would go to validated, some would then go to proposal, then qualified, then win. But the lost stage is not an extension of this, so I'm leaving the lost out from here, and I would show this as a part of win rate. So what I'll do is I would show you win rate instead of showing you the total number of lost deals. Another thing is I need to create a header for the chart, so I would simply create a formula, deal space, and I would close these quotes, ampersand, and I would then use an if formula again. If this value F4 is equal to 1, then it should return size in, say, $million, would close the brackets, or it should return count. And now I hit enter and it gives me deal size as of now, but if I make this 2, then this gives me deal count. Now all I need to do is I need to create a chart from this. So let me create the chart here, and then I can copy paste it on the dashboard sheet. I would go to insert, and here I would go to chart, and I would go to donut chart. Now in this donut chart, let me delete the chart title, let me delete these, and I would go to design, select data, and in this case this is selecting the wrong data. I would remove this, I would add a series, and that series would be these values. And now when I click OK, and I can also change the axis label because I would need to show the axis label, and I click OK, and you can see that now I have the donut chart ready. It starts from here, so I have identified, then I have validated, proposal, and these are win. Now just to beautify this chart a bit, what I did in the original chart is I gave it different shades of blue. So this one was dark blue, then I selected a lighter version, then I selected further lighter version, and this was the lightest, say this one. And for win I made it green, bright green color, and you can also give them a border if you like. I think it would look good if I give it a gray border, something like this. And I also used shadow here, so I went to shadow and I selected this one. So this became my chart. I can go back and make the fill of the area, background area as no fill, and this becomes my chart. I can add the legend from here at the bottom. So this becomes my chart. You can change the shape of this, you can change the donut hole as well. So let me quickly do it, hole size, and I can make it maybe 60% would look good, and I can simply copy and paste it here. So I have this chart ready. Maybe I need to change the border width a little, so I would make it say 0.5. This looks better, and I can remove the border as well. Now I would not spend a lot of time showing you how to format these. I assume you already are pretty good in formatting. What I would do is I would place these necessary elements at the right place. What I also did in the original chart was I also placed a box here that would show me the total number of either deal counts or deal value. But before that, let's see first if this works or not. And sure enough, it works because these values are changing. I can add data labels to it and maybe make these data labels white and bold if you want. can increase the size of the donut a little. So now this is your donut chart. Let me also go to insert. Here I would insert a text box, and let me go back to calculation. Now what I need to do here is I need to show the total count. Now to do that, what I would simply do is I would add this. So this gives me the sum, and let me delete this chart because I've already copied it there, and I would refer this text box. So this text box is selected. I go to the formula bar, I press equal to, and I come to this cell, and now when I hit enter, it gives me the value here. What I can also do is I can go and change the formatting a bit, so that in case I'm showing deal value, it gives me 1,000 separator. So there is no decimal place, no need for decimal place, and 1,000 separator. Now if I make this 1, you can see that it would show me deal size. So I would increase this a bit, and I can show this. What you can also do is you can format it to show you values as say 0.29 or only 298. That is something that can be done, but I'll leave it at this stage. You can figure out the formatting later, and maybe give it this color, bold it, and increase this value. So now this looks better. And when you change these countries, say I make it all countries, and let me increase it a little. Yeah, so when you make a deal count, it would show you deal count, and when you make it deal value, it will show you deal value, and these numbers would again update. So you can use these numbers. The second thing is there was a chart here that would show you the deal count or the deal value by country. So to create that, I have the placeholder here, and all I need to do is I need to first identify whether they have selected deal value or deal size, and then give you those values by country. So I would simply copy this formula, and here I need to give you only the win count or the win value and not everything. So I would remove the first stage, first thing here, and I would say first check the country, or actually I don't even need to check for the country because I need to show it for this country here. So what I would do is I would rather remove everything, start from scratch, sales data, and the country should be equal to this country. So this becomes my first condition. Let me lock it F4 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 thrice. The second condition here is that it should be a win. So I would say sales stage, sales stage is equal to 1, and my third condition here would be whether I'm looking for a deal size or a deal count. So now here if I use an if formula, I can make it happen. What I would check is if this cell, and I would press F4, is equal to 1, which means that I'm looking for for deal size, then I would simply multiply this with deal size, else I would return 1. And now when I hit enter, it gives me this value. But before I move forward, let me first copy this for all these countries. Before I move forward, let me show you what I tried doing here. So what I've done here is I have selected the range. So for example, if I go to this formula, first I check whether the country is equal to Australia, and then I check whether the sales stage is 1 or not. So because I'm already only showing you win count or win deal size, this condition was required, and then I checked if this is equal to 1, and if this is equal to 1, which means that in the dashboard I have selected deal size, so I return deal size value. But if it is count, then I don't need to return anything. This part would give me what I want, so I simply returned 1, so that this entire thing multiplied by 1 would be nothing but this value only. And now see what happens if I make this 2, then this gives me these values. Now what I can do is I can simply use this data to plot the chart. Initially when I did it in a longer way, so I had this placeholder, but I would not need it here because I've used a slightly bigger formula, but I've done it in this space only. So now what I would do is I would go to insert, go to bar chart, and I would select this, and you can see that it insert these numbers which are deal count number, and if I change the value from here to 1, then it returns deal size number. But what I also want here is I want to check whether the country is say Australia or not, or Canada or not, and if it is Australia or Canada, then I want to highlight that country as well. So to do that, what I can simply do is I would use an if formula here, and I would say if this f4 is equal to 1, which means that if all countries are selected, give me not available. Oops, give me not available, because I don't want to plot anything in that case. All countries are selected, so all countries should be in the same shade. But if the selection here, so I would use index f4, and this cell again f4 is equal to this country, and let me press F4 thrice. If this is the case, which means that if I've selected Australia, then give me the number for Australia. And I would have to introduce another if condition here. So what I'm saying here is, if this is equal to all countries, give me not available, but if it is false, then I'm checking whether this is equal to Australia or not. If it is equal to Australia, I return this value, else I return NA. And now when I hit enter, it returns NA here because I have selected all countries. So there is no additional series that I want to highlight. But if I make this 2, then it gives me the number for Australia. Now what I would do here is I would add this series to this chart, and I would put this on, maybe not on a secondary axis, I just need to overlap the series completely. And when I do that, you can see that now this is highlighted. If I change the country, if I make it 3, which is Canada, you can see that Canada is highlighted, and that is exactly what I wanted. Now I can simply format this chart a little bit. So what I would do is I would change the color of these to light green, something like this, or maybe even like this, and I would make this one, this series, the color to be dark green. And I can give all of these a simple border. So I would go here and I would say solid line, gray color, and the width should be 0.5. This looks good, and this becomes my chart. Do some minor formatting, copy this and paste it here. Now all I need to do is adjust the width, lower the font for this, reduce the font so that it fits perfectly, and this looks good. Maybe I can simply say I don't want the major to be 5,000 but 10,000, so that the gap is at least minimum of 10,000. I can also increase the gap, decrease the gap here. So for example, if I do this, it would look marginally better, and then I can add the data labels here, and that is it. Maybe format the data labels a bit. So I would go to numbers, and I would maybe say, or let me simply do this. Let me simply introduce a 1000 separator without any decimal. Let me show the entire deal value here and no decimal places. So that's it. Now I have these numbers here. If I select deal count, okay, it doesn't show. It does show here, but the problem here is that I've set this to 10,000. So maybe I need to make this and reset it. Now it works fine. So whenever you select deal value, it would highlight this country, which is the selected country, which is Canada in this case. And if you select deal count, then again it would highlight the same country, but the data would update. So it shows you only the data for deal counts and not deal values. I can place it nicely so that it fits perfectly here. Now I have both these parts ready. Let me also remove the border for the chart. So I would say no line and minimize it a bit. Now let me delete this chart as well. And as I mentioned earlier, when I created this originally, I created it separately, but here I have showed you to do this within one single chart and these columns, because here what I did is I have added this additional condition. Earlier when I did it, I had this value and the deal value, and then I pulled the respective value based on the selection. So you can do it anyway, but I thought that we have come to an advanced stage and it's easier for you to understand these formulas. Again, this is just a 3 condition formula. Now the next thing I need to identify is next 20 or next 10 opportunities here. So to do that, what I would do is first I would go to this area and I need to extract all the data from here so that I can identify the opportunities. So to do that, let me start from here and I can give the headers later. Now to get the next 10 opportunities, I need to check for 2 conditions. One is whether the deal has been won or lost, because if the deal has been won or lost, it cannot be my next opportunity. And another one is for the country. So if I select all countries, then I want all the deals and then the next 10 opportunities. But if I only select Australia, I want only the deals from Australia. So to do that, I would create a formula here. First I would use an if condition, and within if I would have these conditions which I said, which is won, lost, and the country. So the first condition that I want to check here is whether the deal is already won. So I would go to sales data, and here in sales stage I would say if this is equal to 1. Now I'm hard coding these values and I'm putting the text here, but if you want you can also refer to say sales stages and put it here or do it some other way. I'm hard coding it just to show you in this video. Now this is my first condition and it would give me true or false based on the sales stage. Another condition would be for lost. So I would say sales data and sales stage is equal to lost. So these are 2 conditions, and the third condition is for country. So to do that I would use an OR formula, and first I would check whether this value, and I would press F4 to lock it, whether this value is equal to 1. If this is equal to 1, then this is anyway true, but if this is not equal to 1, then I need to check for the country. So I would use index this array, I would press F4 to lock it, and this would become the row number, and again F4 to lock it. If this is equal to the country, so I would say sales data country, and this completes my OR condition, and now I would end this. What it would do is it would check these 3 conditions, whether the sales stage is won or lost. If that is the case, okay, I should not have equal to here, I need to have not equal to, because I don't want it to be won or lost. So I have these 3 conditions, whether the sales stage is not won, not lost, and equal to this country. If these 3 conditions are met, then this would return true. And if that is the case, then I want the difference between the date, the reporting date, and today's date when this data has been compiled, which is 31st March. So what I would do is I would simply say sales data close date or expected close date minus 31st March, which is the date when this data was compiled. Now again I would hard code this value. If you want, you can simply refer to a cell which holds that value. The year is 2015, month is 3rd, which is March, and the day is 31st. And if this is not true, then I simply want a blank, and when I hit enter, it gives me 7. Now let's go back to the data and see how it's working. The first condition I checked here is whether the sales stage is not won or not lost, and which is true here because the sales stage is identified. And then I checked whether the country is all country or the specified country. In this case I have selected all country, so this becomes true anyway. And then it goes to the close date or expected close date and subtracts 31st March 2015 from this, so that it gives me the difference. For this deal to close or expected to close, there are 7 days remaining. And again, if I drag this to the bottom to cover all 1000 records, here it gives me all these numbers, and again these numbers are the expected number of days to closing starting from 31st March. So you can see that these are numbers, and wherever there is a blank, which means that it has either been won or lost, or the country does not match. Now I can use this, and what I need is the smallest number at the top, so that I can use that date as my next opportunity. But there would be repetition. So for example, I have a 2 here and a 2 here, so I don't want these repetitions. So I would make these values unique. What I would do is I would add rows function to it, and I would lock the first J2 so that when I go down it becomes 1 and 2 and 3 and so on, and I would divide it by a big number. And what it does is, you can see it gives me 7.000001, and when I go down, whenever there would be another 7, it would not be 001, it would be some other number based on the row number. It is giving me value error because this is empty, so I would wrap this within if error, and I would say if there is an error, give me blank, and now it gives me the right result. Now the next thing here is I need to sort this based on the value, and I need to sort them in ascending order. So what I would do here is I would select this array, this entire array, press F4 and use the rows function again, so that when I go down the row it gets incremented by 1, and close the bracket and hit enter, and it gives me 2.00002 because this is the smallest number in this array. And then when I double click, it gives me all these numbers. Now you can see all these are 2, but since I have made them unique, I can now sort them. And then all I need to do is identify the position of this number in this array, and I would hit F4, and then I would say I need an exact match. Now when I hit enter, it gives me 2. Now if you go down, you would see a couple of things. First is there is error in this row and there is error in this row. So to avoid that error, first let me use if error here, and if it's not an error, give me blank. Now when I double click, you can see that the error is gone. But what happens is, down here it is giving me 10 as the value for all these cells. The reason being that here I have a blank cell in the 10th position. So what I would do is I would simply check for a condition, and I would say if this cell L2 is not equal to empty, then give me the position, but if it is empty, give me blank. And now when I double click here and go down, you can see that when there is blank, it would not give me any number. Now I would use these numbers, these positions, to extract the data for next 10 opportunities. So what I would do is I would use an index formula. My array would be sales data, close date or expected close date, and my row number would simply be this cell, and that's it. It would give me 2nd April as the next opportunity date. I can simply drag this down, and I can do this for the remaining parts as well. So now I need to get the customer name. I would simply use this formula, and instead of sales date or close date, expected close date, I would use customer name, and it gives me the customer name here. Similarly, I would want to get the country here. So to do that, I would again use the same formula, and instead of this I would make it country, and it gives me the country. Here I need to get the deal stage, so I would again use the same formula, and I would say sales stage, and here again the same thing. I would say deal value, which would be deal size. And now I have these numbers. I would double click here, I would double click here, and I have all these numbers, and these are dynamic because when I change the country, I make it say Australia. See what happens. I have all the numbers for Australia, all the deals except wins and loss. So I would use these cells in my dashboard. What I would do here simply is I would refer to those cells. So to do that, I would simply go maybe here, I would go here, go to this data, and that's it. I would drag it down till here. It's showing me this number because it's not in the date format. So I would press Ctrl+1, go to custom, and here I can change the date, or maybe I can directly go to date and change this. And I don't want this format, maybe this format is good. Or if you want, you can simply go to custom and change this format to dd mmm YYY, and it will give you this format. I can also copy paste it for these cells and it will give me all these numbers here. Again, one important thing that I always do in the dashboard is if there are objects, I always select their properties and I change the properties to do not move or size with cells. The reason being that now if I change the column width or the row width, I don't want these things to change. So I would have to do it individually for each object. So for example, here in these format controls, I would again have to do it for format controls. I would have to do it for chart as well. So I would right click here, go to properties, do not move or size. Again, for this chart, I would do the same thing. The reason here being that now if I change this row, everything else would remain the same. See, I did not do it for this one and it moved, but I don't want that. So I would simply go and say do not move or size with cells, and I would put it back to its place. Now it would not move. So I can simply double click these and show the value. Okay, here the problem is that I have the numbers here, but they are formatted as date. So I would simply go to number and say 1000 separator, but no decimal. So now it gives me the numbers as well, and I can format these. In this case, what I've done is I've chosen a different kind of formatting. I'll show you what I've done here. I have these dash and a double dash at the top because I just wanted to make it look neater. So to repeat that change, what I would do is I would press Ctrl 1, go to border, and at the top I would use this, and when I leave it, you can see that now it has this border at the top. Again, I would press Ctrl 1, and here I would select this type of border and this type of border, and now when I leave it, you can see it gives that same thing. I can simply select each of these cell and press F4 to get it, and now it looks neater. You can again do a couple of formatting changes. You can reduce the font size and change the way it looks, but overall it looks neater. And I also try to restrict my dashboard to one single screen so that it looks better and everything is in front of you in one single go. So I can simply maybe delete this, and then we have it here. Again, minimize the charts and some formatting that we can do, but I'll not spend a lot of time in formatting. I'll show you how I've created the dashboard. Now the other thing here is that I need to get the top 10 sales rep by country. So I have this list of sales rep again, and what I need to do is I need to identify their either their deal size or deal value, and then based on it I need to sort them. So let me show you how I've done this. Now here I need to check for a couple of conditions. First is that the sales rep or the deal owner should be this person. The second is that the country should be either all countries or the selected country. Then I need to check whether the deal is won or not, because I only want the numbers for wins. I want top sales rep by win value or by win size. And then finally I need to check whether I'm looking for a win count or a win size, because it would return the number in $1,000,000 if it is a win size, else it would return the count. So to do that, let me create a sum product formula here. The first thing that I would check here is sales rep name. So I would say deal owner is equal to this person. So this becomes my first condition. The second condition is that the sales stage should be 1. So I would use this condition here. My third condition here is about the country. So I would use if formula here, and I would say if this value here and F4 to lock it is equal to 1, which means it signifies all countries, then give 1, else check the condition, and the check condition is index all these countries, F4 to lock it, and this is my row number. So this would give me a country's name, the selected country's name, and if this is equal to the country in my original data. So this is my condition, and then finally my condition here is again an if, and I would check if this thing here is equal to 1, which is if I've selected deal size, then give me the deal size values, which would be sales data, and within here I would have deal size. Else, if it is a deal count, then I don't need this formula. This formula can give me the same thing, so I would simply return 1 here. And now when I hit enter, this gives me 0. Let's check whether this is working fine or not. I would hit 1 here, and now when I go down, this gives me the right value, which means that the country I had selected earlier, there were no wins by this person Adrian. Now let me drag it down and see if my formula works, and it seems to be working. Let me just cross check it once. And yes, it seems to be working. I can see that for Joe there is no win in all the countries. So just to cross check, let me go back to the data. Let me go to deal owner here. I would select Joe, and I would check here whether he has any wins or not. And sure enough, he does not have any win. He has lost a couple of deals, but no win. So my data here is right. Now I need to sort these values so that I can have the best sales rep. To get that, whether it be deal size or deal count, I need to sort it. And again, I would use the same thing I used here to get the next opportunity. I would first make it unique. So to do that, I would use rows function, and I would run quickly through this section because I've already done it once before when identifying the next opportunities. So I would quickly do it here. I would say E63 plus rows divided by this number. So it would give me a unique number. If I press Control 1 and show you here, you can see that these are unique numbers. Now I would have to sort these numbers, so I would simply select large function, and I'm using large here because I want the best performing sales rep with the highest win size or highest win count. This becomes my array F4, and I would want to get it from first to second, third, and so on. So I've used rows function. Now when I double click on this and I lock this rows part, it would give me the right value. And here I would simply get the position of this from this array F4 to lock it, an exact match. And now when I double click, it would give me all these positions. Now all I need to do here is extract this position number here. So again, a simple index formula would do the trick. I would select all these names, press F4, and then select this here, and you can see it gives me the name. I already have the formula here. Let me reconstruct it for you. So when I delete, I put these numbers here, I put this formula here, it gives me the top 10 sales rep. Now I need to identify either the win value or the win count based on whatever value I have here. I need not do anything. I simply use an index formula. Here I would select this array. I would select the row number, which would again come with match. I would match this value in this array, press F4, exact match, and I would return the value from the second column. So I would simply put 2 here, and now it gives me the right result, which gives me the win value. If I go here and I change this to 2, which is win count, you can see that these values have changed to counts, and even this has changed. I also have a formula here which simply changes it to win count if I select count, and win value if I select value. Simple if formula would do the trick. So now I would use these numbers, these figures here, to get the top 10 sales rep. So simply I would refer to these names here, and I would then drag it down for top 10 sales rep, and if I drag it to the right, it would also give me the number, and I drag it down as well. I can apply the same formatting here as well, so I would simply copy the formatting and put it here, double click and change this to number format because it got changed to date format, and maybe use 1000 separated in case I'm selecting values, and put it in the middle. So now I have these values as well. I can put something like next 10 opportunities, and top sales rep, and simply give it a different color, maybe a blue color, bold font formatting, and I can align this to the middle. So I would select all these cells, press Ctrl 1, go to alignment, and here I would center across selection and it would put it here. And same is the case with this one. I would simply put it in the center across selection. I would change this, I would make it bold, and maybe I can reduce the font size a bit for both of these. So this is Calibri 10 and this is Calibri 10 as well. Now the final thing that I want to create here is those two charts that give me win count numbers by deal size, and then when I check on the checkbox, then it gives me by sales channel. So to do that, here I have these numbers. Let me first create a formula to extract the numbers of deal size or deal count based on the deal size. So again, I would check for a couple of conditions. Let me create the formula here. The first thing I need to check here is sales stage, and this would be only for those deals that have been won. So I would say the sales stage is 1. Let me put it in round brackets. The second condition here is the country. So to do that, again I would select if this and F4 is equal to F4 to lock it, and then if this is equal to 1, then return 1, else I would have to again check for the condition. First is the index of these countries, the row number is this country F4, and if this is equal to the country here, so this becomes my second condition. And my third condition here, to check whether the size is less than 250k or not. So again I would use sales data and I would say deal size is less than 250, and when I hit enter, it gives me 1, which means that in the selected country, which is all countries, there is one deal size which is less than 250k. Now I would have to recreate this formula for all these cells, but I would have to change the conditions. So everything remains the same, except that here I would say this should be greater than or equal to 250, and I would simply copy paste it here, and I would say less than 500. Now when I hit enter, it gives me 2 deals which is in this range. Now again I would simply copy this formula, paste it here, and change the condition greater than equal to 500 and less than 1000. It gives me 6 deals here. Again I copy paste it, and I'll do it quickly. 1000 here, and 3000 here, which is 22, and the final number here, it is 5000 and 3000, and it gives me 22 again. Now these are my win counts, and this is something that I can plot directly in the chart there. But before I do that, let me also identify these numbers based on the channels. So all I need to do is I need to use the same formula, but I would add another condition to it, and the condition would be that the sales channel here, the sales channel should be equal to telesales, which is here. And let me lock the row only but not the column. Now when I hit enter, oops, I need to close the bracket, and now when I hit enter, it gives me 0, but when I drag it to the right, I think my formula just got changed a little bit. So sales stage is 1, the country here, sales deal size, and everything is fine. Let me drag it to the right. Yes, it gives me one here, which is the sale has been done by partners. If I copy this entire formula here, then it would also if I copy this formula here, then it would also give me the sales by each of these sales channels. So let me quickly do it. Let me copy this, paste it here, and add another condition, which is sales data. Oops. Sales channel is equal to this F4 twice to lock it, and the same condition here. Sales data, sales channel is equal to this F4 twice, and enter. And the same thing for these two remaining as well. This multiplied by sales data, sales channel is equal to this F4 twice, and copy this. Oops. Copy this, paste it here, multiply sales data, sales channel equal to telesales F4 twice, and it's done. Now all I need to do is I need to drag it here. So when I drag it, you can see it gives one here and one here, which combines and gives us 2. If I drag this here, it gives us the right number. Drag it here and drag it here. Now I have the win count by deal size, and I have it by partner as well. Now only one thing that I need to do here is I need to check whether someone has checked telesales or not. So to do that, I would first have to create that chart. Let me first create the first chart. So I would insert a column chart here, and I would simply put these values. I would paste these values, and you can see that it has come here. This axis label is not right, so I would have to change this. I would remove this label, and now I have the right numbers. I have the right axis label as well. Let me delete this. Let me delete the grid lines, and let me change the color to blue, light blue, with slight border. So I would want to have a gray border to it. This should look nice. So I have these numbers here. If I add the data labels, I have these wins here based on what I've selected, and I would use this graph as the first graph in my dashboard. So if I paste it here, and again I'm not worrying too much about the formatting, but if I paste this chart here and I would put those checkboxes below this. So I'd go to developer, insert, and here I would put those checkboxes. So I would just replicate it for all those channels, all those deal size. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories here. I would need 5 checkboxes. And to be honest, I don't need these names here, because if I only keep the checkbox there, then that should work. So I would delete these names. I would simply keep the checkboxes there. Now I would place these checkboxes here. I can change the size and go on with the formatting, but let me quickly do it to show you how it works. Now I would have to link each and every checkbox to an individual cell. In this case, let me go to format control. Let me keep it checked. Let me keep everything checked. And here the first thing would be 250, less than 250k. So I would put the cell here, and when this is checked, you can see it returns true. Let me delete this chart because this is not in use anymore. Similarly, I would have to keep this checked, and 250k to 500k is this cell. Similarly, this cell, it is checked, and this is the cell link. And let me quickly do it for the remaining two as well. keep it checked, and this is the cell link. Now what happens here is that when all of these are selected, I have a true here, and when any of these are is not true, then if I've unchecked this becomes false. Now to get the win count by sales channel, all I need to do is use a simple sum product formula, and here I would multiply this range, press F4 to lock it, and multiply this with these numbers here, and again F4 to lock it. And now when I hit enter, it gives me 1, but when I double click, I would have to change these references, these ranges here. So I would quickly do that. Oops. And now you can see that in the category that I've selected, which is 3 to 5 million, there are 5 sales which we can see here, and of those 5, 2 have come through partners and 3 have come through face-to-face meetings. Now I would quickly create that chart. I would simply copy this chart and create it, because everything is done, the formatting and everything has been taken care of. So I would simply use this version, change the data here, edit the data to these cells and the categories to these sales channels, and you can see that I have this chart ready here. I would copy this and paste it here, not here exactly, here, and I can then simply align it and put a title to it. So now there is a minor formatting thing that is left in this dashboard. All you need to do is format it well. If you change these selections, you can see that it would automatically update. So this is how you can create this chart, where one chart and the selection of this chart is then controlling what you see in the chart below it. One minor thing here is that here I have selected Australia, and there are sales rep where their sales deal count or deal size win is 0. So you may not want to show these numbers. So instead of simply using calculation A4, what I would do here is I would change this, and I would say if, rather I would use the condition here. So let me create the formula, and I would say if this value here is equal to 0, then don't show me anything, but if it is not, then give me this number. And now when I hit enter, it gives me Angela. Let me, because this time it is locked, but I don't want it locked, so I would change the row number here as well as here. Now when I double click, you can see that I only see those sales rep name where their sales value is some number, it's not 0. The formatting got screwed up because I copied it, I double clicked on it, so I would have to remove the formatting. I would go to control 1, and here I can then assign the border. I can say I don't want this, I don't even want this, and I would have to do it for each cell maybe. So I would F4, F4, and now I can simply, okay, also for this cell, now I can simply go here, press control 1 and assign the same border it had earlier. And same can be done for this cell as well, the same level of calculation. So here it is B4 and here it is A64. So I would simply copy this formula, put it here, and I would say if this value is 0, then don't show me anything else, show me this value. And I would copy and paste the formula here. Now the formatting remains intact. So now when you select, say, deal count, it shows you deal count in an descending order. It shows you next 10 opportunities with the next opportunity, the closest one at the top, and then going down with the dates as it gets farther from the current date. It shows you next 10 opportunities. It shows you this chart here where you have the deal count, win count, based on the country selection and also based on the deal size selection. When you change these selections here in the deal size, you can also see what are the sales channel used to do this. Now all you need to do is format this dashboard a bit, maybe give headers to these charts and these tables, and you can also hide these extra rows and columns. Just click here, select all these columns and say, sorry, hide. Similarly, you can do it for the rows. Maybe from here go down and select hide, so you would only have this area available. When I create dashboards, I also hide headings and formula bar so that I get more space in the dashboard, so you can see that everything fits in one single screen. You can also provide some helper items here. So for example, you can have some text here which says that if you select these, then you would have this chart updated like I had in my original dashboard. So this is how you can create a sales pipeline dashboard in Excel. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you and have a nice day.